Mathematics is the language with which the universe was written. Namaste, respected principal, vice principal, teachers, and my dear friends. Today, the 22nd of December, is commemorated as National Mathematics Day. This day is celebrated throughout the nation to mark the 133rd anniversary of the birth of the Indian mathematical genius Srinivasa Ramanujan, the Prince of Indian Mathematics. Now, let us have a look into a video to know more about this mathematical prodigy and how he came to be the man who knew infinity. Srinivasa Ramanujan was one of India's greatest mathematical geniuses. He was known for his works in infinite series, improper integrals, continued fractions, and number theory. He also made substantial contributions to the analytical theory of numbers and worked on elliptic functions. By 1904, Ramanujan had begun to undertake deep research. He investigated the series and calculated Euler's constant to 15 decimal places. He began to study the Bernoulli numbers, although this was entirely his own independent discovery. Ramanujan spent his childhood in Kumbakonam with his mother, and he excelled in his preliminary education. In fact, he was the brightest student in his district. Ramanujan's insight into the world of mathematics was opened by one of the books on trigonometry, which he mastered in no time. He was soon hooked on to another book, an elementary synopsis of pure and applied maths, which had 5,000 theorems. There was a catch though. The theorems didn't have any proof, and it was up to the students to crack that. Ramanujan took to this like fish to water, spending many hours on it. People believe that it was this book that triggered his genius. For most people, it would be bad news to end up with some complicated expression or long, seemingly random number, because it wouldn't tell them anything. But Ramanujan was different. Little Wood once said of Ramanujan that every positive integer was one of his personal friends. And between a good memory and a good ability to notice patterns, I suspect Ramanujan could conclude a lot from a complicated expression or a long number. For him, the object itself would tell a story. Later on in his high school days, Ramanujan devoted more and more of his time to mathematics and neglected his other subjects. Despite his lack of a university education, he was becoming well known in the Madras area as a mathematical genius. Ramanujan once wrote to G.H. Hardy, having seen a copy of his book, Orders of Infinity. Hardy received a package of papers with a cover letter that began, "Dear Sir, I beg to introduce myself to you as a clerk in the accounts department on a salary of only 20 euros per annum. I am now about 23 years of age," and went on to say that its author had made startling progress on a theory of divergent series in mathematics, and had all but solved the long-standing problem of the distribution of prime numbers. The cover letter ended, "Being poor, if you are convinced that there is anything of value, I would like to have my theorems published. Being inexperienced, I would very highly value any advice you give. Requesting to be excused for the trouble I give you, I remain, dear sir, yours truly, S. Ramanujan." That was just the beginning. Later on, he went to become one of India's greatest mathematicians ever. But the curious thing is that whenever someone called him a genius, Srinivasa Ramanujan used to show them his elbow. They were full of marks and small bruises. The mathematician grew up in poverty, having little money to buy even paper. and thus had to resort to using his elbow to wipe out the formulas he had penned on his slate. Unfortunately, this prodigy left us quite early, leaving an eternal void vacant in the field of mathematics. Srinivasa Ramanujan, mathematical prodigy, hastily scribbles formulas after formulas on loose sheets of paper. He told his wife Janaki Ammal his work would bring laurels and perhaps bring them out of poverty and want one day. The illness did not permit him to write, yet he wrote, first on a slate and then copied final results on paper. The sheets of paper discovered 50 years later created ripples in the quiet world of mathematics. Armed with this new tool, physicists are today exploring the stuff the universe is made of and trying to understand objects like black holes. The formulas that Ramanujan had put in his so-called last notebooks could not have resulted from pure computations, because the methods to do such computations were worked out only in the late 1970s and 1980s, many years after his death. He must have had deep insights. It's puzzling how he came to these findings.
One day, Mr. Hardy quipped that he came in a taxi with the number 1729, which seemed a fairly ordinary number. Ramanujan said that it was not. 1729, the Hardy-Ramanujan number, is the smallest number which can be expressed as a sum of two different cubes in two different ways. While the Ramanujan number is not his greatest combination, it is certainly a fascinating discovery that is easiest to remember among all of his discoveries. Ramanujan was fascinated with numbers and made striking contributions to a branch of mathematics, Partitio Numerarum, the study of partitions of numbers.
It is often said that mathematics is not about numbers, equations, computations, or algorithms. It is all about understanding. In its own way, it is like the poetry of logical ideas. Mathematics, after all, gives us every reason to hope that every problem, howsoever difficult, has a solution. Thank you.